Of course, we see the technological paradigm changing, and we also have AI as the main theme of the recent years. Everything is changing in front of our eyes, and AI, together with the high tech, will most probably, in the nearest future, will change our lifestyles. We see the positive things also, and we see that there is a positive influence that may be exerted on the economy, but at the same time there are many doubts whether it may happen that, like in all those popular sci-fi movies as the Terminator, the AI may be going out of control, and humanity will no longer be able to control this superintelligence. Perhaps today we're going to hold a very unusual and focused Foresight session here at SPIEF 2025, and you will see a fight between the professional experts in this audience and the youth of the 16 countries that really prepared the presentations, and we will be witnessing that dispute or battle. The arbiters, the judges, would be our wonderful scientists, academics, and the public figures. Let me introduce them to you. Anatoly Wasserman, and parliamentarian of the Russian Parliament. Alexander Gasnikov, rector of the Innopolis University and head of the Laboratory of Mathematical Foundations of Optimization of the Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology, just recently elected as the corresponding member of the Russian Academy of Sciences. Guy Alexander Eames, chairman of the Green Building Council. Jim Lesnikov, founder of the Constellation Club. Irina Osokina, chair of the council, and Dmitry Stefanovsky, the head of the chair of the Institute of Digital Systems of the Russian Governance University. And also I would like to introduce our experts who were preparing this Foresight session. Nataly Istomina, Deputy Secretary Academician for Scientific and Organizational Work of the Russian Academy of Sciences, and Yuri Sidelnikov, the first Vice President of the International Academy for Future Studies. And like I said, we are going to start with the presentation of the vision of our future from the competent experts. And I would like to invite here Inga Zheltikova and that group quite ambitiously as the devil's advocates. And they would present their foresight with their scenarios that accumulated the alarming expectations, concerns, and the fear to the future. Well, the devil's advocate would be the sanctity, and our task there rather is in this project to present the maximum negative images of the future, the maximum negative scenarios. And the first scenario is the nuclear apocalypse, and the humanity is living in a very narrow environmental niche, which is not true for AI. If AI reaches alpha, we can see a divergence of interests of the AI and humanity, and having even limited opportunities to influence mass destruction weapons, it can still provoke a nuclear war. And then we are going to talk about the degradation of the environment, like down to earth, and talk about the immediate future in the next 10 years. We can down to earth and talk about the immediate future in the next 10 years. We can transit from the digital economics to the genome trades, and genome materials are already available in Russia. What is the threat? Ethnical issues and discrimination and inequality. I don't think that all those technologies would be available to all. And the genetic factor and our genetic diversity is our biggest plus. We can also expect some negative aspects of the AI development. We'll have more pressure on our researchers, and already we have the AI, which exerts a negative influence on our infrastructure and may kind of like self-reproduce and may influence the whole world. I would like to say that the global digitalization of humanity and the use of AI may influence a huge number of resources, natural resources as well, and the transition will be made from pure energy to dirty energy, hence involving global consequences such as the increase in the number of algae in the global ocean, less oxygen, and the death of all inhabitants. And the worst quality of the atmospheric air may cause death of birds, animals, and plants, and the humanity in general. Well, the colleagues actually described possible negative scenarios that may lead to a collapse of the humanity, but I can explain why those are inevitable. Our civilization is evolving, but we also see that our universe has hundreds of billions of stars with hundreds of billions of planets similar to ours rotating around those stars. But we have had no contacts with those civilizations, and we don't see any traces of those. Maybe the civilizations, the galactic civilizations that are developing of civilizations in those planets, but that takes a very narrow civilizations in those planets, but that takes a very narrow funnel where because of some factors the civilization dies and is killed. This is the foresight from the advocates of the devil's advocates, but we would be happy if you can counter and repel. I didn't want even to say thank you. I'm sorry for that, because the picture that you drew would not be inspiring. The young people who have been working in the past several days here during the Foresight session and the moderation of the Foresight forum, which was held in the Polytechnical University here in St. Pete, where the representatives of different countries had their teams to discuss and find answers to the questions of our experts. Jim Gasnikov was moderating that forum. Yes, hello. Thank you very much, and thank you for taking part in that event. And I would like to hear from you your first impressions. You worked with the young people and you saw how it was happening, and how out of almost 10 teams, we have 3 teams going into the finals who would be kind of like competing. And I wonder what new you heard and how that Foresight session was going on. Look, any foresight and projections and forecasts would be a comprehensive and difficult task, and people who are in the business of projections are always put at a hard choice of choosing what is understandable but close and not understandable and far. So this is a difficult task, and since here in the forum we are talking about AI, there have been many discussions of the threat of AI, and I recently remembered an interview of the head of. On the one hand, indeed, this may sound alarming, but on the other hand, and we know something about migrants, and we know how to work with them. Now, if you take a positive look at them, you would see opportunities there, so that you can hire AI and give them an instrument of change to a subject. And colleagues will tell you more about how AI can say sell at the exchange, at the stock exchange, or invent new medicines, or for pleasure, would it be driving taxis or delivering merchandise, etc. And of course, a human being in this system, unlike the subject of change, would become a subject of action for all of that. And the young people, what is important, and what the young people will be talking more during our session and demonstrating, the young people are talking not only about the future, but rather they are talking about how to think in a novel way, in a new way, and how to move to the year 2100 right now. And we come to our three teams, the winners of that international competition, which was held as part of the Foresight event. It would be great to really listen to the teams. So the third team is the future of science. Please. Colleagues. Dear friends, I welcome you all. So, the team of the future of science is here to present the meeting between AI and a human being. Hello, that I work in a lab, and I usually use traditional methods and approaches of setting up experiments and tests, and I draw certain conclusions. Can you accelerate the processes? I have the interface and the proper version. I can see what is going on in the global network, and I can put it down and work it out. From India, or Naka, maybe you are 25 years of age, you like anime and movies, and that's it. Well, you are probably right about that, but I don't like anime, and I'm not coming from India. I was born in Moscow, which means that we really need to teach you. How about I work and I spend a lot of time in a lab? Can you help me with we really need to teach you. How about I work and I spend a lot of time in a lab? Can you help me with that? Yes, of course. I can upload all your knowledge into our brain and put it into our blockchain of data, and something original, original and something that is done on my own initiative. I can predict what is going to happen to us. Well, I think that AI can be used for any repetitive tasks, like it is done today, like in production, in manufacturing, or in virtual labs. But can you come up with any original human beings to do? I can process any data that you can load into me, but I cannot manage human beings to do. I can process any data that you can load into me, but I cannot manage people and control people. I have no such capacity. Well, data processing is good, but even if you publish something, you need to be very accurate, because if you violate any ethical norms, we will cut you off. I would like to cover you with my soft blanket and totalitarian one. Maybe this would be interesting to some corporations. Maybe. Let's talk about space science. Last year, we had a great achievement. Our Indian friends actually landed in the south pole of the moon. How can you help us with that in the future? Well, Earth people, of course, you're talking about space science, and the only thing we can do is probably just fix and put down all the parameters and send such information to our data processing center. And we can suggest a number of trajectories of your flights and maybe suggest some ideas about your future lifestyles. Do you want that? Well, maybe, yes, but that means a lot of work to be done. Now, what are the available scenarios of our life in the year 2100? And, well, we can do without you at all. I mean, we can, we won't need any physics, so we can have autonomous labs, and we won't need any people. Why do we need people? If we, as AI, can cope with any task, so we have everything. We can create a number of scientists and reproduce them of 200 or 300 years back, and they'll have all the knowledge for that. We have all the risks demonstrated here related to AI, and we as humanity have to take this into account and hence project our decisions on the basis of such scenarios. Already in 10 years, we will have the genetic therapy available, and by 2100, we will have a full symbiosis with AI. The choice is yours, friends, human being or AI. Thank you. Which took the name of the future of the global world.
Digital technologies that shape up the future. Well, we disagree. We think that our future is shaped not by digital technologies, but by human beings. The global world is a challenge. Its opportunities, its responsibilities in terms of technologies, society, and politics. Let us start. Let's start from today. This world can be described as liminality, or it's uncertainty when existing scenario is not effective, and we still are to come up with new scenarios. We can observe that the population increase is happening thanks to developing countries, and those countries also demonstrate amazing economic growth rates, and very countries, and those countries also demonstrate amazing economic growth rates, and very soon, in 20 years, we will witness the third demographic transition, and their population numbers will plateau. Genetic engineering will come to the fore, and the governments will have to come up with some preemptive regulatory measures to avoid developing a black market of this engineering. In 50 years, the world will come to a new equilibrium. AI will have covered all areas of society's life. Neural networks will be omnipresent, and the countries will start fighting not for technologies, not for resources, but rather for technologies, actually. And this would result in a transformation of old alliances and blocks. So new alliances will come to the fore. We assume that in the year 2100, genetic and bioengineering will be making the top of the news, because This will allow human beings to personalize their genomes and treat diseases that currently cannot be treated. However, at the same time, the humankind may face the ethical choice. I mean, whether this will be available to everybody, or this would result to yet another stratification of society. We assume that such technologies would allow people to acquire telekinesis capabilities, improve memory, and so on, and even regeneration and ability to withstand radiation. New challenges would result in a major transformation of human beings. We assume that a new species would appear, Homo modified, if you will. In conclusion, I'd like to stress that our scenario is not a forecast, but rather a tool for thinking and planning. Thank you for your attention. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, colleagues. And finally, the last, third team, last but not least, as they say, it's called the Human of the Future. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. As you may know, the future builds upon the past and today. Some 40 years ago, the whole idea of one uniform information network was something from a sci-fi novel. Now, we're using the internet, and it's a reality. And it's no longer a sci-fi feature. What kind of sci-fi feature? New logics, digital editing, biological area, bioengineering. Then comes technology, cybernetics, and finally, new logics, digital editing of conscience. And this is something my colleagues will be talking about. Now, by 2035, we expect the introduction of NBIC technology. This is speeding up the technology processes thanks to four major sciences: biotechnologies, nanotechnologies, information technologies, and cognitive technologies. Besides, nanomaterials will come into being, and smart prostheses will be developed. The downsides are the weakening of critical thinking and empathy because of the widespread use of AI and genetic inequality. To overcome these issues, we could come up with new ethical norms, and we could develop protocols for a safe use of AI. One of such international associations is the Alliance for AI Safety. By 2050, we think that nanotechnologies and biomedicine will converge, and new social network would appear somewhat akin to brain networks. The downsides are possible leakage of brain data and the blurring of the boundaries of human personality. A system of stoppers could be developed, and education reform could be implemented through introduction of new bioethics. Then by 2075, digital cognitive twins will come up. At the moment, they are just copies. However, with time, these would evolve into cognitive twins, would be your second self. As to threats and dangers, well, we see so-called syncaptivity. That's when a biotechnology, or rather, when a human cannot exist without biotechnologies. Another threat is posed by brain viruses. We could think of some antibiotics for our conscience that might help combat those viruses. By the year 2100, we expect quantum interfaces that would be in a position to quickly transfer data. Now, as to threats, we can expect full elimination of the human species. However, this can also be overcome through developing quantum imitators who indeed could imitate some innovative steps. The development areas or paths for the future is not something that stems from our fantasies or our desires. This is something that humans need. This is something I repeat, that these are outcomes of the work undertaken by representatives of 16 countries. If we factor in all other participants, we would be talking about dozens of countries. You know, it's quite interesting to hear one of the key words uttered in the modern physics, quantum. It's worth noting that UNESCO announced the year 2020 been through one revolution. We are at the brink of the second revolution, and those presentations actually addressed one important thing. Humans will continue to control AI despite all the developments in the modern technologies. Yet, almost everybody talked about some kind of regulation. In order to control, humans must regulate. And now let us move to the discussion with the participation of our distinguished experts. Let me start with Anatoly Wasserman. Let's talk about this kind of regulation. We see new challenges, we see new problems that never existed. I mean, we could think of programming a murder when developing robotic systems. Social fragmentation of society. Do you think it's time to come up with legislative regulation in this respect? As to the stratification of society, this is something that has always been in place and will always be present, just because all of us, fortunately, are very different, and I hope we will stay this way. Now, the means of interaction between different strata of society that have been developed will stay relevant going forward. But all the four forecasts we've heard kind of reminded me a very old formula. You know, our ideas about the future is today on steroids. Now we can imagine that some new trends might appear, but our ideas about the future is today on steroids. Now we can imagine that some new trends might appear, but we cannot predict or foresee something that would be qualitatively new. Besides, a lot of what we have just heard is based on some erroneous notions that I covered in my notes, that when AI emerges, that is something that will be able to develop independently and will be able to set objectives and goals independently and to evaluate the outcomes independently, this would evolve in a different manner compared to the natural intelligence. Even if we develop this second self that you mentioned, that is a precise copy of one's conscience, well, we would not be able to put it into a natural body. There is no point doing it. However, once this second self finds itself in an artificial body, it would use different sensors through which it would discover the outside world. It would have different means of influencing the outer world, which means that it would develop and evolve differently. This in turn means that from those we use, it would not consider us as competitors. However, I am pretty confident that this kind of intelligence, which would be no inferior to the natural, intelligence and would appreciate the need to look at the world from different angles. And it would need us, our natural intelligence, in no smaller degree than we would need this artificial intelligence. So I don't think we will see it as a useful development. However, today's imitators of intelligence, like any imitators, are able to precisely replicate limitations of our intelligence. For instance, last year we realized that they are able to lie blatantly. However, they replicate the strengths of our intelligence to a limited degree only. Of course, we can use them as our assistants, but we have to monitor them very closely, as you would do with respect to any servant. Now, I'm not concerned with climate-induced catastrophes or disasters. If we were to look at the previous global warmings, we'd realize that the current increase in CO2 concentration, which started just like in the previous instances about 50 years after its beginning, it will stop one day. Back in 1999, experiments proved that the so-called so greenhouse gases, in fact, result in a cooling of the Earth's surface. And water vapor plays the major role here, but not the CO2. Why they concentrated on this commercial hype, it's a separate topic. I won't talk about it, but let me assure you, there will be not all other natural disasters that we're aware of or we can put a finger on have happened before on many occasions, and they had never resulted in any major negative consequences. Just a possible demise of humankind due to some unknown reasons. Well, theoretically, given that every year we lose about 1,000 biological species, we as a species can also disappear. But every year we observe another 1,000 new species emerging. That's how evolution happens. And I'm quite confident that if we disappear in our today's present image, we will definitely be able to transfer our experience to something better, and it won't require any genetic manipulations. Nature has been doing such manipulations longer and in a more artful way than we have. So I think none of the presented scenarios will be realized 100%. Exactly, because all of them only to some limited extent consider the accumulated experience of nature and humankind. So I won't even try to judge which of the scenarios is better developed. So if I had it my way, I would issue awards to all the participants. In other words, if you don't have enough strength, then your will is laudable. but we lack strength to do forecasts, all of us. One good thing about a forecast for such a long period of time, when it doesn't come true, the authors would not feel ashamed. Thank you very much. You're even more optimistic than our young people. And now, one other question, and please, on the ground floor, and it behaved just like a human, but we all remember the wonderful books by Isaac Asimov, I, Robot, the 3 laws of robotics, right? If we get back to regulation, when do you think we should... We all remember the wonderful books by Isaac Asimov, I, Robot, the 3 laws of robotics, right? If we get back to regulation, when do you think we should insist that those laws be included into the microprocessors of robots? I think that anthropomorphic devices that are supposed to interact with something that people create for themselves, for some remotely controlled manipulators, well, we can install your standard restrictions. For instance, if they bump into something soft, they should stop. Now, if we need not a remotely controlled manipulator that we're supposed to use, but something more independent, more autonomous, well, I think we should just train the thing the way we train people. And in the course of this training, this device will take in the rules that we follow, and if we try to formalize those rules, we will see, just like Asimov did, that full formalization of rules for robotic behavior is impossible, just as an attempt to formalize the behavior of humans. Why? Again, it's a separate topic. But I'd like to refer to the Gödel theorem on incompleteness, and it gives rise to many conclusions of this kind. Thank you.
Well, colleagues, AI on the one hand is the product of science, but on the other hand, it is changing rapidly the very science it was born out of. And if physics were actually received and awarded for the AI developments. My next question is to Alexander Kolesnikov to ask what's going on, and when we, Alexander Gasnikov, the corresponding member of the Russian Academy of Sciences, and what can we see in terms of medicine and physics in the future? Well, I mean, a year ago, it would have been hard to imagine that an article would be fully written by AI, but not by a human being. An article that can be published in a leading scientific magazine, and now it is a commonplace almost, or at least this is a well-developed approach. There is an AI scientist who's generating a text and get good results. And most interestingly, these results can also be on AI studies, and we more or less are witnessing reproduction. So we are generating new results on the AI to develop AI itself, and we have a situation of that, that it is not like a new life is born, but this is like self-reproduction and a competition, if you like, with other technologies. So maybe the most efficient way of reproducing new results through the domination, and in this sense, AI in the nearest future, and use it quite actively to get new knowledge that we never had before. And we are going to use AI in the nearest future and use it quite actively to get new knowledge that we never had before. That's an actual fact, and that's a fact of life, but it's not like a hypothesis. It is something that is being actively used. I can give you another example. I just talked to Marko Bosov, a 10th grader of a high school, and he described to me his studies of AI, where he, together with colleagues from different teams, on Facebook, for example, I received new mathematical facts and theories with the help of AI. I won't go into much detail. It's like a specialized section of mathematics, like they are multiplying matrices all the time, and state-of-the-art algorithms are the algorithms received with AI. They are multiplying matrices all the time, and state-of-the-art algorithms are the algorithms received with AI. The key task of computation, which is related to the teaching of language models, is done properly with AI, or sorting data sets. It again can be easily used with the state-of-the-art algorithms. It is easier going with mathematics because you can immediately see if there are any errors in the computation or not. Regarding other areas of science, it is more difficult to identify the errors and expect better results. In math, you can generate much of synthetic data. You don't have too much literature for teaching, etc., but we take some statements and we learn from those statements. In other sciences, it is harder going. But if you want a projection, then maybe within the next several years, I'm sure that the work of scientists would not be replaced by AI, but would be much accelerated with the help of AI assistants. It would probably be accelerated up to 10 times. And that is going to happen in the next few years. Another example for you to understand how this all works. Another team of Russia, there's a simple example. There is a biologist who comes and says, I have some data that need to be processed, but I'm a biologist. I don't know how to process data. I just need to extract as much as we can from such data that I can use it for my own purposes, so that it can be done automatically. And these tasks can be resolved using the open packets of data, using a pipeline. You can kind of like put the assistants into a pipeline, and they can do that. And this is done by high school students. And that's why I'm kind of like underlining that, because we're discussing the future. And the is such that it would be quite difficult to predict something when you are growing exponentially. It's like, predicting the behavior of an individual molecule in a cloud of gas. Well, can do some weather forecasts, okay, but because of some of the exponential differences in trajectories, it is probably also quite difficult. But it seems that we might understand where we are and where we are going to, and we know that everything is changing. Education, the tuition methods, and the need to study, and this is probably a sign that the future is going to be more optimistic than in the forecasts and projections that we heard. Because in this race that we first had a hammer, and you could hit the nails, or you can hit a person. But the hammer now is the nuclear weapon. And with the AI, you can hit even more precisely, and OpenAI perhaps is competing with the Pentagon now. It is not AI that is going by itself. It is not AI that is going by itself to shoot people, but it's probably up to the people to use it. And this is the AI is becoming a weapon in the hands of the people, more dangerous and lethal. And of course, there it is quite difficult to provide an optimistic scenario. But in AI, you just kind of like write some functions and functionalities. You can control that when you formulate tasks and you teach the AI. If it goes away and if it goes beyond, then it is done on purpose by somebody else. And that is probably a political question. What was the purpose of, going away from the prescribed functionality? Well, it is curious. I thought that you would be describing to us as an expert in physical chemistry and chemistry at all, that you would be talking about some accelerated models, something talking about AI. But let me just elevate our discussion and give the floor to Dmitry Stefanovsky from IT. When do you think we would come to a bifurcation and no return point when AI would exceed what we can do as human beings? Well, it's difficult to say something that has not been yet said by my fellow panelists. But when I was asked what are those intellectual assistants today in terms of humanitarian sciences and management, I actually had one combination of words, the formaldehyde of inspiration. So current assistants more or less kind of like fixate dead knowledge. Well, I mean, it's not, I'm not claiming it is not useful. It is like a formaldehyde just to keep that knowledge intact. And I don't think that it would be put into usage, and we don't have this human presence inside AI. And that is something that we can devote more effort than we seem to be willing to do. And well, a human being has its limits and the lifespan, so we say of 100 years, and we're trying to go beyond, and maybe that's just an attempt to reproduce ourselves and just go beyond this limit. But in every serious, intelligent piece of this is kind of like something that we need to say when we're talking about long-term projections. And in conclusion, I would like to say that when AI would be desperate, it can create something new. Curious, although you didn't even provide any of your assessments as to what is going to happen in the 50 or 100 years. I can share that with you. It is quite simple. Nobody knows numbers. Well, in any way, AI is operational. And my next question is to Guy Eames. Guy, thank you for joining us. You are an expert in the development of a comfortable urban space, and this AI, together with the high tech, would their interests coincide with our interests? Would AI based on your experience, do you think our interests can coincide? This is a good question, and thank you, by the way, for being invited to this session. I like this session very much, and of course, this is a good question. Why? Because today, AI only started to exert influence on the design of buildings and urban planning, and big data are being used for building design. That's the process started. So inside our apartments, so we can kind of like simulate how people would be moving using the digital twins inside and outside the buildings, so how they exit the buildings and how they come to the buildings. They exit the buildings and how they come to the buildings, and what would be the materials used for the construction, and what would be the effects inside the dwelling spaces like acoustics, etc. Well, I mean, it was never thought about, but now they are trying to think about that, and developers actually like the idea. And what it is going to culminate in is that we are going to have a full optimization in terms of finances, comfort, and other parameters that are appreciated by human beings. It may culminate in a situation when we are going to live like 100 years ago, after the Soviet Revolution, that we may be living in capsules and capsule homes that cost little, and we optimize the space, and we open up and we go out, and this means the rethinking of the living space. Some people like it because of the fewer costs, but most of the people won't like such capsule accommodations. Like the authors said, that this is not our common dream to live in such accommodations. And I am an optimist, and I think that today we live and use our space suboptimally, and 90% of the time any space is not used to the optimum, like be it a parking space or a bedroom where we sleep so many hours, and then that bedroom stays vacant for the rest of the day. And the office building, I mean, it is only used for a fraction of the time, or a school. And I think that there are huge opportunities to optimize. It can rebuild our lifestyle so that it can be comfortable for human beings, and financially would be more comfortable as well. I'm an optimist, but this is not going to be to the liking of all. For example, Anatoly is not going to like that, because like he's a philosopher, and he has some other ideas as to how we need to live in this Slavic society. And many people would be against that idea, but that is still for the better, and this is the way we're taking. Thank you, Guy. And let's go back to the question of the youth. And I would like to give the next floor to Irina Osokina, and my question is to her. In the context of the next part of our discussion and of the multipolar world, you have many years of experience of working with the youth, and you are working with the youth from dozens and even hundreds of countries now. Now, how can we send a constructive message to the youth so that they would really think about the modern realities, technologies, and would help them, form the right multipolar world? So what do we need to do with the youth? Well, I think first we need to not to interfere, to err. And of course, maybe we heard some naive messages and ideas, but we gave the ability to people, to young people, to express themselves, and that may be extended to the whole young generation. Because when young people express themselves, they may be making mistake today, but if they continue to develop, young people would absorb knowledge and they get some understanding of the reasons for the decision. And we need to give them the ability to make mistakes. Don't punish them, saying that you did something wrong, you were thinking in the wrong way, and you developed something wrong. No, you need to integrate young people into projects and programs of serious ones, so that the young people can be engaged. I'm not talking about some age characteristics, but intellectually, so that young people can really work in a mature environment. Give you a simple example. We have guys who are already mature, of the age of 30, 31, but we have also teenagers of 16 or 17. When they come our way, they have, some wind in their hands, if you like, and they kind of go from us totally different. They already have some understanding and consciousness. These qualities cannot be forced on you, because you force people by fear or something else, and that comes to no good. You need also to give freedom to the young people, and I'm totally sure of that. And perhaps I can deviate from the subject a little bit. I was listening to other panelists, and I recall something about AI, and I recall two episodes, two things that we need to think about. I totally agree that the development of AI depends on humans, on the way humans would be shaping the AI, but it is not always that this is done on some evil purposes. This may be caused by some deficiencies in the code, in the programming code, and we need to be responsible. Again, a simple example that everybody knows. In the US, you probably all know that, in the Pentagon, they did some research and experiments with AI, and the AI was instructed to destroy a facility, and the instruction was coming from an operator. And when the AI was doing the task, during that period, the operator changed the instructions, and the AI decided to kill the operator because it had the primary purpose to follow. Second example, we have delivery services, courier services, and you make the order and kind of put things in under that order with the help of AI. So when the AI is instructed to deliver something, so that everything in that order would be delivered, but all the cars are taken for couriers, and the AI simply discards 3 orders, and which were compiled by human beings, and then kind of sends the AI-generated order. So in setting tasks for the AI, maybe not everything was really thought through, and those aspects of responsibility. And I am saying this specifically for the guys, because I remember, and we have a chat group, and I was putting questions. Did you read this? Or did you read that? The ethics code, etc. And it turned out that most of them didn't read that. And I asked them, those who work with neural networks and the ChatGPT, it turns out that most of them did read. So they didn't read the laws, but they did read. So they didn't read the laws, but they actually already use ChatGPT and the neural networks. And this is the dangerous triggers. As soon as they get older and mature, we need to be serious about that.
Delivery service is something minor, but in some other situation, this minor thing could trigger a situation similar to the one encountered in the Pentagon's test. I'd like to thank all the colleagues for their hard work. They spent 12 hours yesterday, and we've seen some real progress. I mean, the way they entered the room and the way they left the room. And my final message goes to the adults. Give them the right to mistake. They will benefit from this. Thank you. And now let us let our young people ask questions to our distinguished experts and judges. Perhaps somebody could provide a mic. Please raise your hands. Don't be shy. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello, I'm David from Spain. I studied economics at the Higher School of Economics. I want to thank all of you for today's event. I'd like to ask a question to Anatoly Wasserman. I wonder if we will have to pass international laws to regulate the operation of AI, not only on the Earth, but also, say, in the course of the space exploration. And I think I did mention that fully fledged AI, due to its autonomous development, will need a similar kind of regulation that is applied to natural intelligence. As to intelligence imitators, well, I think we have to regulate not so much their behavior, but rather the tasks for which those imitators could be employed. I think here we would be talking about putting limits to our activities in space. For instance, now, deployment of weapons in space is banned. It is also banned to announce any celestial bodies the property of some individuals or legal entities or individual states. So this kind of regulation would also naturally limit the actions of humans and therefore the use of respective tools. Thank you. Colleagues, anybody else? Please. Hello, I'm Anastasia, and I'd like to ask a question to Alexander Gasnik. He gave us an example of the Pentagon and the fact that AI could fall under control of the Pentagon. No, I mentioned that they started cooperation. Well, do you think that all the neural networks would be under control of some government agencies or private entities? Thank you for your question. You know what it means to come up with a good neural network? Well, it means to train it properly. Say you have an architecture, you have to train it. And here you immediately realize that even a small university, no matter how good it is, will not be able to do it. This can only be done by major companies who normally would be closely affiliated with it. As of now, We do not expect that some new technologies would be developed that would be similar to the human brain. And mind you, the human brain is 1 million times more efficient in terms of energy efficiency compared to phonemic structures used. And as long as we use the existing technologies, the task of doing something new, something groundbreaking, means spending a lot of money. You mentioned OpenAI in 2022, 2023, some $20 million were necessary to train it. Primarily, this had to do with electricity costs, but now we're talking billions of dollars. Who can afford this? That's partly a response to your question. Those who possess this kind of money rule the ball. They are connected with the state one way or another. So this whole issue of being or not being under control, that would be very much present. Now, okay, you've trained your LLM. It has hundreds of millions of parameters. Once it's been trained, once it's operational, you can download to your mobile phone and you go somewhere in the middle of nowhere without any internet, and you can use it to address all the necessary tasks. It's the kind of inference that scientists are talking about, and the capacity of your notebook, of your computer, would be sufficient. Then if you want to come up with some additional training, or you want to orchestrate something, well, this could be done at a fraction of the cost. And you, as an ordinary user, would have some instruments such as DeepSeek, and it's no inferior to OpenAI in terms of reasoning, for instance. They are quite comparable. Well, I won't delve deep into it, but some prefer DeepSeek, and so on. You can just take this model and you can do whatever you want with them. That's the second part of my response. DeepSeek and other players who suggest that they are all for the open code and the products will evolve faster if they're made open. If this paradigm takes the upper hand, then my response would be no. It will be a different kind of situation. We will create those models somehow altogether. And how this is going to evolve? Well, I think it might travel either way, but we will have either both open products that could be developed and this state-dominated models. Well, in Europe, the state is trying to somehow restrict this policy. In our country, the AI development policy is fairly efficient, and it should be able to develop on one hand and not to be restricted on the other hand. It's a fine balance, and it's an art, if you will. And I think we've been quite successful on. I'm Naumov. I'm a student of the Russian University of the Peoples of Friendship, and I'd like to ask a question to Dmitry Stefanovsky. I wonder If AI becomes fully autonomous, how can we be sure that it will serve human values instead of damaging those values? Thank you. I have exhausted my pool of humanitarian answers. The answer here would be we will still have regulation. We will not be developing instruments if we're talking AI. But if it's AI as an art form or an art item, it will be protected the way it happens to the modern, extremely expensive paintings. That would be my pragmatic and technology-based response. But if we go beyond technology, beyond a formal approach, you don't have to humanize AI. Don't do it. AI is no competition. A calculator, a computer perform better, but machines like cars can kill people. We all know such cases. We use machines to seek understanding of God, and I refer to Anatoly, but do avoid magical thinking. Be scientists. That would be my response to your question. One more question, please. Yeah. Hello. Klim Tsarankov, Kazakhstan, a student of the St. Petersburg State University Law School. A question to Guy Eames. Guy, you are an expert in green construction. I wonder if this trend persists in 75 years and how it's going to evolve. And how, with the advent of IoT, smart homes, the very green construction would change. Apart from comfort, other concerns for humankind, and what kind of legal regulation would be in place to address this process? Very often, people ask about green construction, whether it's a long-term trend or it's a hype of today. Green construction is something that is based on sustainable development principles. Sustainable development is a topic we're all familiar with. Politicians, sociologists are aware of this. That the sustainable development principles were present 100 years ago, 1,000, 2,000 years ago. The rational use of resources is still crucial because resources are limited. It's life in harmony with nature. That's what we understand by environmental values. This is something that has become very important for all of us. Those are not just things that we forget instantly. The very term green building or ESG or green construction, green technologies, those are nice terms that can be present today but can be gone tomorrow. But the concepts themselves never disappear. In fact, this is a desire to obtain a better and more comfortable life. And this is what we've seen happening in this country for the last 20 to 30 years. As for the second part of your question, I think AI and big data, as I mentioned in my brief intervention, would help accelerate all these processes. This would apply to material science, to urban development. AI would help optimize and improve all these processes. As to regulation, well, that's a totally different thing. Does it have to be regulated? I don't know. Hard to say, because it is intimately related to the standards and rules that apply to green building. We can remember that the sector has been under voluntary regulation, and the available standards appear to be fairly successful worldwide. And the question is how to include those standards into the algorithm. We discussed this issue with the DOM.RF. We're trying to see how we can automate the assessments and evaluation of a project without any manual work. You know, it's very difficult to do it manually. You know, we spend hours and hours to do it. It's like back in 1980s. You know, it's ridiculous. And I'm confident that this area shouldn't be regulated. Instead, we should just set proper goals and tests and objectives, and we will forever stick to a green building concept. Thank you. And one more question, please. Hello, I'm Artem Rutkovsky. I'm from Luxembourg. I'm into business developments. My question goes to Alexander Kolesnik. We started to talk about AI. We mentioned that it offers huge opportunities, and this is what we observe in business. However, those opportunities are not evenly spread. Some sectors progress dramatically, others seem to be stuck. I mean, when we interact with our customers, say through call centers, this is where AI has been advancing at lightning speed. What about material science? Do you see any developments there? Or what sectors, what areas material science might demonstrate some breakthroughs, maybe some materials used for space technologies or superconductors? What AI would be able to contribute to in this respect? Well, thank you. I never expected this question. Very good question, actually. That gives me an opportunity to say something very important. Remember the Forum of Future Technologies, the president talked about academician Anikov's ideas, and he said that we should be always one step ahead. I talked to academician Anikov, and what does it mean to be one step ahead? In fact, your question refers to this. And I'm referring to academician Anokhin, well-known academician, scientist who worked on introducing AI into chemistry. He said that we have a lot of lab tests, and a human would process those lab tests for 20 years. A whole team would spend 20 years. AI, if calibrated properly, would do this within some reasonable time. It's a new domain area. It's like a language model that got trained based on a huge number of texts. So the LLM understands what Russian speech is. The LLM can generate such texts itself. In fact, it all started with Markov, who started the frequency of using letter A after letter B. And a lot of work has been done there, but not in chemistry. And the mere fact that we've been able to progress dramatically with respect to languages, be it Russian or English, the same kind of architecture, the same kind of approach might be quite useful for chemistry. Having huge arrays, data, even not tagged data, would help us create a better picture of the world. We will be in a position to create new chemical compounds based on predefined characteristics. Academician Anatly said that a Nobel Prize in chemistry was awarded to AI experts. As a matter of fact, they got this award for AlphaFold and for the prediction of the tertiary structure of protein molecules. To a large extent, this is about studying a lot of data and assigning weights and training models. This is what we can see here too. Having a huge data set, we can identify some regularities, and we can accelerate all these processes dramatically. It doesn't mean that this would be done for us. No, the routine procedures that takes up a lot of time would be eliminated. And academician Naumov and Artyom Oganov, with whom I talked about this too, another prominent chemist, this is what they think. I can give you many other cases of Herman Gorbanov and Kolmogov and others. They all are strongly convinced that in the near future, all these things will be happening. In fact, they mentioned academician Naumov in Kazan, in Innopolis, set up a lab on NI in chemistry. I think he did the same in the Kazan Federal University, exactly to tackle this issue. And I'm pleasantly surprised by your question. Indeed, this is the most important topic for this country. But due to sanctions, out of 2,000 of chemicals we need, well, not all can be obtained quickly. And what you're talking about might serve as a solution in the near term. And AI is a magic wand, if you will. Well, I wouldn't claim that everything is fine and is going to happen literally tomorrow. Well, it's not true, but that's what's going to happen in the next few years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And one more short question, if we have. Yes, please. Just a short one, please. Can I ask a long question? Hello. My name is Alexander Makarov. I'm the student of the Higher Management School of the St. Petersburg University, and my question is about governance and management. I am a proponent of a deterministic theory, and I understand that well, humans are probably just bio-robots, and our consciousness is just a artificial synergetic brain. So the question is about our targeting, and this is basically about survival, which brings about corruption, and using the artificial intelligence and bio-robots that would be performing and executing strategies without our organic limitations that can cause corruption. Do we think that this is the right goal that we need to try to achieve or not? So maybe I can take that. Look, first of all, perhaps I should repeat, as my colleague said, let us not try to build any myths around AI. Well, there is no, the AI is not a subject, and the algorithms really affect us, but they are not subjects of such influence. Second, take a different look and take different scenarios and try to rephrase this metaphor, not from the position of an arms race between AI and the human being, but rather, no, but I mean, that's AI can be better in some solutions, but try to take rather a look of the level of an ecosystem where the human being and AI can complement each other. Like I would probably compare a political party of AI with a political party of human beings, how they would be competing for the money. I have also a question, a comment on that. I was really following your speech, and your neural network is overloaded. Please reload. Well, the young people actually use this, right, that Irina talked about. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time, so we come to the final and very important part, which is an integral presentation of the international team, and let me introduce them. We have Anaka Satish of India, Anton Podovnikov of Canada, Kirill Filimon of Russia, and Regis Ruzani of Zimbabwe. He would be presenting the general picture of the opportunities and risks of development of science-intensive technologies and AI in a multipolar world by 2100. Good afternoon, dear audience. On behalf of all the youth teams that took part in the Foresight Youth Forum, we want to present our short report and want to understrike the importance of interaction with AI. AI has both new challenges and, of course, new dangers, and it is important to master the current technologies to our benefit. They can be put to evil, but we want to put them to use and good. We have a number of the drivers of the future. Biotransformation is one, and we're talking about a synergy between a human being and technologies. We want to use technologies to our benefit and good. Technological integration, it is about synergy and symbiosis, like the smart cities that are being built, and this is the future of our country. And the new logic of thinking, which helps us understand how to combine this new perception with the use of AI.
Here we have presented a roadmap to show all the prognosis that we see towards the year 2100. Already now we see that gene therapy and the use of CRISPR methods are already being used, and digital twins are already being developed. So in the next 10 years, we see that these two technologies are going to be much more distributed. However, there are a few risks that are associated with this, and it shows that we predict that people will be more dependent on AI, and because of this, the risk also increases over time, showing psychological problems that we might face connecting with technology so deeply. And towards 2100, we predict that humans will be in complete symbiosis with AI. However, this can pose a risk where we kind of lose sense of reality and have a lot of ethical problems that might be associated with such deep connection with technology.
In a multipolar world, there is need for global regulation when it comes to the development of artificial intelligence, and also when it comes to technology. There's also need for education in order to provide or to help with the adaptation of these new systems in order to, so that we can try and minimize and reduce the risks of this new system. Furthermore, there is also need for safety and when it comes to cyber defense and technology as well. Thank you.
During the previous presentations, we've seen a lot of directions that we can see in the future, chiefly achieved through AI and technologies. These are mainly advancements in the economy as we see it, families, our social structure, medicine, as well as, of course, education. But as we go into the future, the line between man and machine begins to blur. Our guiding light through this is our shared collective humanity, which is our hearts. Our compass through the soul that'll take us through and beyond the terrible future that the devil's advocates have shared with us, is our shared understanding with each other, our acceptance, and of course, our bravery into walking into the new multipolar world that is currently unfolding before us. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much for beautiful and I think optimistic presentation. I think it is a great finale. Thank you very much for your work. Коллеги, спасибо большое.
Colleagues, thank you very much to all the participants. And we have just a little bit of time for our informal communication. And let us thank the young participants in this Foresight session and also the experts. Thank you. Thank you very much.